The day I found out I was terminally ill, my girlfriend left me alone to be with her first love. That same night, I discovered kiss marks on her and an opened box of condoms. After that, I completely gave up on her, but she didn't want to let go. She even said, "You can raise the baby in my belly as your own." What a joke. I don't love her anymore. Why should I be her fallback guy? When Lena came home, it was already 2 a.m. I was awakened by the sound of her high heels being tossed by the shoe cabinet. Forcing my weak body out of bed, I walked out. Lena glanced at the untouched birthday cake on the table, curled her lips slightly, and said casually, "Happy birthday." "I was too busy today. I'll make it up to you next time." She brushed it off with a perfunctory line. Seeing how indifferent she was, a pang of pain hit me. Lena used to care deeply about rituals. For every holiday, I would prepare gifts and surprises with great care. I don't know when it started, but my birthday gradually became something insignificant to her. "Why are you back so late?" I asked with concern, but Lena snapped immediately, raising her voice in irritation. "I said I was busy. Why do you ask so many damn questions?" I fell silent right away, unwilling to provoke her further. Pain crept through my chest and spread throughout my body. My stomach also started to ache faintly. Clutching my stomach, I walked to her vanity, as usual, to help her remove her hair accessories. Suddenly, I noticed a few red marks scattered across her neck. My mind went blank. I stared at them. "Lena, what's on your neck?" My voice trembled, afraid of hearing an answer I couldn't handle. Lena froze for a second. Guilt flashed across her face before she glared at me. "Mosquito bites." I scratched them myself. But the bright red marks on her neck stabbed into my eyes like knives. In the dead of winter, where would mosquitoes even come from? "Can you stop using that filthy brain of yours to imagine things about me?" Seeing that I stayed silent, Lena slammed the table with anger. The pain in my stomach grew worse. I exhaled deeply, forcing myself not to think the worst of her. I apologized softly and tried to calm her down. After a while, her expression eased. "Lena, let's eat the cake together." I looked at her hopefully, wanting to make up for the birthday I didn't get to celebrate. After all, this might be my last birthday. But Lena glanced at me impatiently, said nothing, and stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. I stood frozen in place. The pain spread through my organs. I couldn't hold it in anymore and ran to the bathroom, vomiting a mouthful of blood. The person in the mirror looked pale and ghostly. My stomach burned with pain, but it didn't compare to the ache in my heart. The toilet paper had just run out. I saw Lena's bag nearby and opened it to grab a tissue. But the moment I looked inside, my blood froze and my body went stiff. It was an opened box of condoms. My hands trembled as I picked them up, confirming over and over. Thinking of the red marks on her neck made my heart hurt unbearably. Lena never let me touch her. She said she wanted to save herself for marriage. I respected that. I never pushed her, afraid it would upset her. In our 5 years together, I only ever held her while we slept. Then I remembered the call from earlier. Just today, I had left the hospital with my diagnosis in hand. The doctor's expression was grave as he told me I had stomach cancer and needed to be hospitalized immediately. The first thought that came to mind was, what will happen to Lena if I die? I didn't want her to worry. I planned to wait until after my birthday to talk to her about it. My fingers trembled as I struggled to open my contact list. Before I could dial, Lena called me first. "I won't be home for dinner tonight," she said coldly. I was stunned, unable to respond, when I suddenly heard a man's voice from her end, affectionately calling her baby. "Where are you?" My voice was shaking. She clicked her tongue in annoyance. "Busy with work. Eat on your own tonight." I'm hanging up. Only the dial tone remained in my ear. On impulse, I opened her Moments feed, Mark. Lena had posted a photo, two hands clasped tightly together. One was unfamiliar. The other wore the ring I had given her. Caption: Finally, I found you. I stared in disbelief, heart in my throat, and dropped the medical report in my hand. When I refreshed the feed, the post had disappeared. Standing outside the hospital, I kept refreshing her moments over and over, trembling from head to toe. But I still refused to believe Lena was cheating. Suppressing the urge to confront her, I went home. I never expected to find the condoms. I took deep breaths, trying hard to stay calm. After cleaning the blood from the sink, I walked to the bed holding the opened box of condoms. Lena, why did you buy this? Lena opened her eyes, annoyed. When she saw what was in my hand, she paused for a moment, then exploded with rage. Who gave you the right to go through my bag? Ethan, do you have any shame? She threw a pillow at me. I stumbled back a few steps, feeling my heart sink to the bottom. The pain in my stomach was getting worse. I bent over, unable to hold on, but Lena didn't even notice. She furiously threw everything on the nightstand to the ground. I'm so done with you. Yes. I cheated, so what? Jace is back. Look at yourself, what part of you is better than him? She shoved me hard, shouted at me, and stormed out of the apartment. I struggled to follow her out the door but collapsed from weakness. I could only watch her back as she walked away, getting farther and farther. Curled up on the ground, I could taste the metallic bitterness in my throat. Thinking of what Lena had just said made my entire body go cold. When I first met Lena, she had just broken up with Jace. She was crying her eyes out on the roadside late at night. I was worried about her safety but didn't want to scare her by approaching too suddenly, so I stayed in the car, watching from a distance. After a long while, Lena walked over to me, shivering, tears in her voice as she asked if I could take her home. That's how we started talking. Eventually, I confessed to her. We've been together ever since, for 5 years now. Later, I found out she had caught Jace cheating on her that very night. Now, I had become the version of her from back then. Thinking of her cold, disgusted expression, my heart ached violently. I opened our old chat logs from when we first got together. She'd sweetly remind me to dress warmly, cooing that I had to love her forever. The floor was freezing, but I kept reading our messages, laughing and crying. Her gentle, sweet expressions and her current angry, irritable face kept flashing back and forth in my mind. The weakness in my body grew unbearable, and I passed out. By the time I woke up the next day, it was already bright outside. Lena hadn't come home all night. I struggled to get up, still worried for her safety, and sent her a message on WeChat. Then I cleaned myself up and headed to the office. There wasn't much time left, I needed to put my affairs in order. Just as I arrived, my secretary said someone was waiting to see me. A smug, sleazy-looking man came in, whistling, and sat down uninvited. He looked at me with a crooked smirk. "You're Ethan?" I clenched my fists, staring at him without saying a word. This was Jace. I had seen pictures of him on Lena's phone. His expression grew more triumphant. "Don't look at me like that. Your girl came begging to me. She was the one who wanted to sleep with me." His words pierced my heart like knives, but I kept my face calm. "What do you want?" He sneered at me, eyes full of scorn. "Looks like you didn't win her heart in 5 years. Tell you what? Give me a little money, just 3 million. I'll disappear. She'll be yours again." I paused, then repeated, 3 million? Maybe sensing hesitation, Jace's expression turned greasy and eager. He promised that if I gave him the money, he'd leave immediately. I laughed bitterly to myself. I couldn't believe I'd lost to someone this worthless. Thinking of Lena's words from last night, saying I couldn't compare to Jace, another stab of pain hit my chest. I let out a cold laugh, stared at Jace, and spat out 2 words, "Not a chance." His face changed. He threw a punch at the air, raging. You dare mess with me? He lunged at me. My assistant Hugo immediately restrained him, twisting his arm and making him scream in pain. I was just about to wave for security to throw him out when suddenly Lena burst in. She threw herself at Hugo, frantically pulling his arms away and slapped me across the face. Ethan, what the hell are you doing? Her eyes were full of distress for Jace. When she looked at me, all I saw was rage. I froze in place. Blood rushed to my head. I barely suppressed the urge to lash out. Can you be reasonable for once? He's the one who. Before I could finish, Lena cut me off, shouting, I went to Jace. If you have a problem, come at me. Even if you drive me to death, I will never love you. She shot me a look filled with hatred and left, supporting Jace as they walked away together. My face burned from her slap. Her words, I will never love you, echoed over and over in my mind. I could hardly breathe from the pain. The agony in my stomach was unbearable. I grabbed a handful of pills and swallowed them, falling into a fog of nausea and chaos. In the mirror, my face was deathly pale. My eyes, bloodshot from rage, looked terrifyingly red. I never imagined Lena and I would come to this point. Even after discovering she cheated, I never thought of laying a hand on her. Warm tears fell onto my hand, only to quickly cool in the air. I stared at the long silent chat window and sent one final message, let's break up. I spent some time tying up loose ends at work, and then took a short trip back to visit my parents. My child, why have you lost so much weight? My mother gently touched my face, her voice filled with concern, and I was overcome with guilt. I always thought there was plenty of time. I rarely came home, and now, I might not even have the chance to fulfill my duty as a son. The table was full of delicious dishes, yet my stomach turned at the sight of them. Lately, my body had been reacting more and more strongly. I could barely eat anything. After reminding my mother to take care of herself, I made up an excuse and left. Calls from the hospital came one after another, urging me to come in for a follow-up. Just as I arrived at the hospital, I got a call from Mark. Ethan, congratulations. His words caught me off guard. Lena's pregnant, looks like the two of you are getting back together soon. He sounded cheerful, but I paused, frozen. I hadn't told anyone about the breakup. With so little time left, I didn't want to waste my energy explaining. She's pregnant? There was a brief silence on Mark's end, a little awkward. You didn't know? I just took my wife for her checkup and ran into Lena. I glanced at the big sign in front of me, obstetrics, and instinctively turned my head. Lena was standing in line alone. Maybe I stared too obviously because she spotted me immediately. Just 1 second later, she stormed over like an angry lion. What are you doing here? We're already over. Her voice grated on my nerves. I glanced at the time, worried about being late for my appointment. You said it yourself, we're done. What does where I go have to do with you? I had never spoken to her in that tone before. She was briefly stunned, then even more furious. Ethan, you're actually stalking me to the hospital now? Do you have no shame? People turned to look. Her voice pierced the quiet hospital like a siren. I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. I hadn't contacted her once since the breakup, yet she thought I was the one chasing her down? Old wounds and fresh anger surged together. Clenching my fists, I turned to walk away, only to run straight into Dr. Carter. There you are. I just read your scans. The cancer has progressed again, you have to undergo surgery. Dr. Carter held on to me tightly. I obediently followed, but behind us, Lena called out. What did you just say? She stared at Dr. Carter, panic creeping into her face. You're his family, right? He asked. This young man has mid to late stage stomach cancer. Please talk him into getting the operation. Lena staggered, then rushed up to grab my sleeve, eyes welling with tears. Is that true? She asked. I didn't know what act she was trying to pull this time. My stomach was twisting in pain, and days of poor rest had left me barely able to stand. She tugged at me, and I nearly collapsed. What are you pretending for? This has nothing to do with you anymore. I just wanted her gone. My voice was cold, merciless. She didn't let go. You really have stomach cancer? Why didn't you tell me? She mumbled, looking more devastated than I was. The fury in my chest burned hotter, the pain in my gut unbearable. I sneered. Tell you? Lena, the day you were sleeping with another man was the day I got my diagnosis. Her face turned pale in an instant. I didn't want to engage any further, tried to walk away, but she threw herself at me, wrapping her arms around me. I didn't know. I didn't know. I tried to push her off, but I had no strength left. She held me tight. My body trembled. I couldn't hold it back anymore, a metallic taste rose in my throat, and I coughed up a mouthful of blood. She froze. Then screamed. Just before I lost consciousness, I saw her face twisted in panic and fear. I don't know how long I was out for. In the haze, I heard the doctor discussing my condition and someone sobbing nearby, over and over. It was Lena. But why would she be crying for me? Her sobs dragged me back into memories. Lena had lost her parents at a young age. Maybe it was because of that, I had always felt especially protective of her, wanting to give her the love and security she'd missed out on. I couldn't even raise my voice to her without feeling guilty for 3 days. After we got together, she often complained about her toxic work environment, how her coworkers bullied her as the new hire. She seemed so unhappy every day, so I promised her I'd take care of her. I told her she didn't need to work, she could do whatever she wanted. She was overjoyed when she heard it, kissed me on the cheek, and promptly quit her job. The first few months were great, we were deeply in love. I took her traveling whenever I could and never placed any limits on her spending. But gradually, her monthly expenses grew, reaching nearly 100,000 yuan at times. Although I could afford it, I still found it odd. Every time I brought it up, Lena would immediately blow up. What's that supposed to mean? You think I spend too much? You don't want to spend money on me? She always shut me down with that line. Not wanting her to feel unloved or think I was stingy, I stopped talking about money altogether. I thought, as long as she's happy, spending some money is no big deal. Later on, her temper worsened. She grew more impatient with me. I chalked it up to mood swings and kept trying to be understanding. I didn't want arguments to damage our relationship. Even when I found out she cheated, I had planned to give her a generous sum, just to part ways peacefully and never see each other again. But I never expected her to react with such shamelessness. She even slapped me. And now, just 2 weeks after our breakup, she was pregnant with another man's child. As I gradually regained consciousness, I slowly opened my eyes. Lena's face lit up with joy as she gripped my hand. Her face was still streaked with dried tears. You're awake. Thank goodness. Her fake concern only fanned the flames of my anger. I glared at her with all the fury I could muster. What are you pretending for? Lena faltered, guilt flashing in her eyes. She lowered her voice. I didn't mean to betray you, Ethan, I was seduced. I pulled the corners of my mouth into a bitter smile, how ridiculous. Really? It was Jace. He said he liked me, kept apologizing, I was too soft-hearted, she babbled on, her voice growing weaker as her guilt overwhelmed her. Finally, she lowered her head. Lena, we've already broken up. I turned my head and shut my eyes. I didn't even want to look at her. Lena clung to my hand tightly, her voice panicked. I'm not breaking up, Ethan. You need someone to take care of you. I won't leave you. I was surprised at her desperation. Looking at her stomach, a thought crossed my mind. You're pregnant? Lena nodded, biting her lip in embarrassment. What about Jace? Panic flickered across her face. She stammered, "He's at work. He's busy." I raised an eyebrow. Jace was nothing but a freeloading lowlife. He'd never held a job, probably never even washed a dish. Lena stuttered some more, voice so soft it was barely a whisper. I don't know, I'd already figured it out. The moment Jace came to ask me for money, I knew he didn't care about Lena at all, she was just a fling. Now that she was really pregnant and he didn't want to take responsibility, he ghosted her. I know I was wrong, Ethan. I swear from now on, I'll love only you. Let's go back to how things used to be. I'll take good care of you. My body was still weak, but seeing her teary, pitiful face brought me no sympathy, only a dark satisfaction. "Oh," I said coldly. "So are you going to abort the baby?" I was genuinely curious how she planned to get us back to how things used to be. Lena froze, trembling slightly. "The doctor said it'll be hard for me to get pregnant again. If I abort now, I might never be able to have a child." I looked at her still flat stomach and sneered. "What's that supposed to mean? You want me to raise it?" Lena clutched my hand, voice barely audible. "Ethan, as long as you don't say anything, no one will know it's not yours." I was stunned. I couldn't believe the shamelessness of her words. I turned away and closed my eyes, refusing to say another word. Finally, Lena left reluctantly. Later, my mother rushed to the hospital upon hearing the news. She looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight, her eyes filled with tears as she gently stroked my hair. Many of the doctors here were her colleagues or Mark's friends, and she'd gone to discuss my treatment plan. Of course, she'd heard bits and pieces about me and Lena. When she returned, her face was dark with anger. "My poor child," she pulled me into her arms, gently touching my thin, bony back, sobbing quietly. "I've heard about what happened with Lena. Don't dwell on it anymore. The most important thing now is your health." My mother knew Lena well. I had truly loved her and genuinely wanted to marry her, so I'd introduced her to my family early on. My mom was never satisfied with Lena, mainly because she felt we weren't a good match. But seeing how much I cared, she didn't say much. I kept trying to smooth things over between them, talking Lena up constantly, eventually softening my mother's view. But in the end, it still fell apart. The following days, I stayed in a private room, focusing on recovery and waiting for my surgery date. Lena came several times during that period. My mother gave her no warmth. Every time she saw her, she would drive her out immediately. When my mom wasn't around, Lena would sometimes stand outside the door, secretly watching me. I often heard faint sobbing from the hallway, quiet but clearly restrained. When my health had improved enough, I was wheeled into the operating room. Fortunately, the surgery was a success. My mom was so overjoyed she couldn't stop laughing and crying at the same time, babbling about how she'd make nourishing food for me to help me recover. I smiled at her, but out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure. Before I could react, Lena came rushing in, crying as she dropped to her knees at my bedside. "Thank God you're okay. Do you know how worried I was?" She tried to hug me, but my mom quickly blocked her. If it weren't for you, my son would have recovered faster," my mom said coldly. Lena's eyes were red and swollen from crying. "I know I made mistakes. I promise I'll change. You still love me, don't you, Ethan?" "I know you do." I watched her coldly, completely unmoved. If anything, I felt a sense of revulsion. "You always lashed out whenever something didn't go your way. I put up with so much, and you chose to cheat on me the very day I got diagnosed. Lena, what makes you think I still love you?" I looked at her with calm contempt as her tears streamed down. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. But I really love you. Please give me a chance. I'll cherish you." She sobbed harder, her voice trembling with desperation. I was too exhausted to argue. I shut my eyes, not wanting to waste another word on her. Seeing this, my mom understood my feelings clearly. She glared at Lena, her voice trembling with rage. I can't believe you did this. What has Ethan ever done to deserve this? Breathing heavily, she pointed at Lena with trembling fingers. Leave right now. Don't ever come back. If you walk out now, I'll keep this between us. But if I ever see you again, I swear I'll spread every dirty thing you've done and ruin your reputation. Lena trembled, her tearful eyes locked on me, her lips quivering. But I turned my back to her without the slightest emotion. We had been together for 5 years. I had supported her for 5 years. By all standards, I had been a good partner, respecting her choices, taking care of every detail so she wouldn't envy anyone else. Now that it had come to this, I had done more than enough. Under my mom's scolding, Lena sobbed as she walked out, still looking back at me again and again. I stayed in the hospital for a while longer. With my mom's careful care, I gradually regained my strength. Deep down, I knew this illness couldn't be cured. Even with a successful surgery, all it did was buy me a few more years. How long I could live now depended entirely on fate. Back when Jace came to my company to blackmail me, I had someone look into him as a precaution. I didn't expect they'd actually find something. But I gave up the idea of telling Lena. Her life had nothing to do with me anymore. I didn't want to waste my limited time on people who didn't matter. When I was discharged, the sun was shining brightly, it felt warm even in the middle of winter. Just as I was about to head home, Lena appeared in front of me, cradling her belly. She was already showing, but had clearly grown thinner. She looked worn out as she hurried over and grabbed my hand. Ethan, I missed you so much. I calmly pulled my hand away and took 2 steps back. Her expression turned wounded. I didn't dare come see you. I was afraid your mom would find out. It took me so long to get this chance. I really missed you. After so many attempts at confrontation, I had grown tired. I didn't have the energy to argue anymore. I closed my eyes briefly and said coldly, Lena, there's nothing between us anymore. If you keep harassing me, I'll call the police. Lena looked at me in disbelief, holding her waist with one hand and covering her eyes with the other. You're so heartless. Do you have no feelings left at all? It was Jace who said he loved me. I lost control just that once and betrayed you. I know I was wrong. But I'm just a woman with no job. And I can't even find him now. What am I supposed to do? She sobbed harder and eventually crouched down, her voice growing smaller and smaller. I thought for a moment. To finally end this mess, I decided to tell her the truth. Lena, Jace is married. Her head snapped up, eyes wide in shock. I continued, he's been married for a while. You were just a fling to him. Once he found out you were pregnant, he ran off. I showed her the security footage from my office. In the video, Jace's face was twisted with greed as he tried to extort money from me. Lena stared at the screen, her eyes reddening as though they might bleed. I took the phone back and said, with a trace of pity, when we were together, I gave you plenty of money. If you plan to keep this child, that money should be enough to get you through a while. Find a job. I had done all I could. But hearing that, Lena's eyes widened in fear. She frantically pulled out her phone and opened her mobile banking app. There was only a few hundred yuan left in the account. It was Jace. He transferred all my money. Lena sat dazed on the ground, tears falling non-stop. He said he needed to borrow 3,000 to tide over for a bit. My phone had just run out of battery, so he asked for my bank card password and said he'd withdraw it himself. He promised he'd pay me back, he lied. He took all my money. Lena seemed to go mad, breaking down into hysterical sobs. She crawled toward me and grabbed onto my pant leg, begging desperately. Please help me, Ethan. For the sake of what we once had, help me. Help me find him. I can't survive on my own. She cried so miserably that people nearby began to look over. Some kind-hearted passers-by, seeing she was pregnant and fearing something might happen, helped her up. "She's carrying your child, isn't she? No matter what, you shouldn't treat a pregnant woman like this." An older woman looked at me disapprovingly. Lena clung to me and wouldn't let go. I shook my head without explaining. I pried Lena's hands off and got into the car. In the rearview mirror, she was still reaching out in my direction, screaming my name at the top of her lungs. After resting at home for a while, I decided to go on a trip to relax. But the world is really small. I never expected to run into Lena and Jace on the way to the airport. They were in the middle of a crowd, pulling and yelling at each other. Jace kept cursing, and Lena's voice pierced through sharply. I asked the driver to pull over. "I'm carrying your child. You have to take responsibility. Jace, you have to take responsibility." Lena looked haggard, almost deranged. Her hair was a mess as she clung to Jace's arm. Jace looked disgusted and shoved her away impatiently. "I'm broke. We just slept together once, who knows whose bastard that is? And now you want to cling to me?" Lena stood there in shock, unable to believe what she heard. She suddenly shrieked, "You want to deny it? I've only slept with you. If it's not yours, whose is it? Take responsibility. Give me back the money you cheated me out of." The crowd began murmuring, full of mockery and disdain. Jace's expression turned ugly. He looked around and sneered, "You're lucky I even looked at you. Now you want me to take responsibility? Slut. That money? You gave it to me willingly. I've got no money, and if you want to fight over it, you'll have to die for it." He was completely unrepentant. After yelling, he turned to leave. Lena panicked and rushed forward to stop him. "You're not going anywhere. If you don't take responsibility, I'll go to your wife. I'll tell her exactly what kind of crap you've been pulling outside." Jace stopped in his tracks. I saw a flicker of viciousness flash in his eyes. His face twitched, and he suddenly jabbed his elbow into Lena's belly. "Slut. You think you can threaten me? I'll kill you." Lena let out a heart-wrenching scream and collapsed, clutching her stomach in agony, her face twisted in pain. "Quit faking it. Trying to squeeze more out of me?" Jace looked down at Lena with contempt. The crowd started backing away in shock, pointing at Lena. I saw her face turn deathly pale. She trembled uncontrollably, and a large pool of blood spread beneath her. Jace finally panicked. His expression kept shifting. "No, it wasn't me. She fell on her own." He shoved through the crowd and ran. Someone had called 120. Soon, paramedics arrived and lifted the unconscious Lena onto a stretcher and into an ambulance. My feelings were complicated. Life really changes in an instant. I waved for the driver to take me to the airport. The media acted fast. By the time I reached the airport, the incident had already made headlines. "Pregnant woman attacked in public, suffers miscarriage." The report dramatized the entire scene and even posted the full video. The internet exploded with comments. "Sounds like she was a homewrecker trying to steal someone's husband. Serves her right. How can you say that? Sure, she was wrong, but doesn't the man share any blame? Even animals protect their young. Look at him, does he look like a man to you? So much blood, that baby is probably gone. He's heartless." Very quickly, Lena and Jace's backgrounds were dug up by online sleuths. Netizens started sympathizing with me. Seeing all the personal attacks online, I ordered my team to hide all information about me and not leak anything. I didn't want to get involved in this mess any further. But while I was out traveling and enjoying nature, I got a call. It was from a psychiatric hospital. They told me Lena had lost the baby. When she woke up, she was no longer mentally stable. She kept muttering my name over and over, saying she was sorry. They said they had tried many treatments, but only when my name was mentioned did she respond. They couldn't reach any of her family, and it took them a long time to find my contact number. I felt a wave of mixed emotions, but I didn't want to play the hero anymore. I briefly explained to the hospital that I had no relation to her anymore and ended the call. As for how the psychiatric hospital would deal with Lena from then on, it had nothing to do with me anymore. My health had just recovered, and my mother didn't feel safe letting me travel too far. So I only wandered around nearby for 3 days before flying back home. On the street, I saw a wanted poster at the police station. Jace's face was right there. I didn't think much of it. It was already late, and I just wanted to get home quickly to rest, so I took a shortcut. But I had barely walked a few steps when something cold pressed against my waist. "I've finally got you," Jace's venomous voice sounded in my ear, and he gripped my neck tightly. My heart sank. I turned my head slightly. If it weren't for you telling that little slut I had a wife, she wouldn't have gone crazy looking for me. "It's all your fault I can't go home anymore." His voice was low and terrifying, and the sharp knife pressed harder against my body. "If you hurt me now, you'll never get away. Killing someone is a capital offense. Why not just let me go? I'll pretend I never saw you." I looked at him calmly. Jace paused, then sneered, his face full of madness. "I came here ready to die. I've got nothing to lose. It's your fault my life turned into such a mess. If you had just given me some money back then, I'd be long gone by now." I couldn't help but laugh at how righteous he sounded. Trying not to provoke him, I didn't resist. "You won't get much jail time anyway. I can give you some money, enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life." Jace looked at me with deep suspicion and let out a scornful laugh. I told him I could transfer the money right now. He hesitated, clearly tempted. "I'm alone and just had surgery. I can't run even if I wanted to. Let me go and I'll transfer it to you immediately." I continued coaxing him patiently. Jace glared at me viciously. "If you try anything, you're dead." He finally released his grip on me. The moment the knife left my side, Hugo, who had been hiding around the corner, pounced and tackled Jace to the ground. Jace let out a painful scream. I brushed the dust off my clothes and kicked Jace's knife far away. Jace stared at me in shock, still not understanding what had happened, and started cursing at me furiously. I looked at him calmly and squatted down. "Jace, everything that's happened to you today is your own doing. What does it have to do with me?" I had already seen the wanted notice for Jace on the plane. My mother was worried, so she insisted I bring Hugo with me. Although I didn't really think Jace would come after me, I didn't want to make my mom worry, so I had Hugo quietly follow me around without drawing attention. I sensed Jace's presence as soon as he appeared behind me, but before I could act, the knife was already at my waist. That's why I played along to get him to lower his guard. I never had much to do with Jace. I didn't expect him to harbor such deep hatred toward me. Officer Blake arrived quickly. I handed Jace over to him. Jace had already caused Lena's miscarriage, and now he was attempting murder. With multiple charges, he was going to pay a heavy price. As Jace was dragged into the police car, he turned to spit at me and threatened that he'd make me suffer once he got out. I just smiled indifferently. A coward like him, even 10 of him wouldn't faze me. Besides, I had already decided to move abroad to enjoy a peaceful and stress-free life. The next time I heard news about Lena, she had passed away. Mark's wife, who worked at the psychiatric hospital, told me that Lena had remained unstable. She would carry a doll around like it was her baby, mumbling apologies and begging for my forgiveness to anyone she met. One day during a staff shift change, she used a pair of scissors she had stolen during lunch to pry open an iron window. She jumped from the 5th floor and died instantly. Mark told me she was still holding a letter tightly in her hand when she died. He gave the letter to me. I hesitated, but I opened it. It was filled with apologies, written neatly. It was clear she had written it while in a relatively lucid state. If she had said those sweet words to me earlier, I would have been thrilled. But now, I felt nothing. In the letter, she said she was sorry, that she had always been grateful for my tolerance and affection, and that now she would use her life to give me an explanation. I burned the letter. I thought I had stopped caring about everything related to Lena. I wrapped up my business in the country, then moved abroad with my mother. I followed the doctor's advice, exercised regularly, ate healthy meals, and my health steadily improved. At my most recent checkup, the doctor told me my physical indicators were now the same as a healthy person's, with no signs of recurrence. A huge weight was finally lifted from my shoulders. I traveled all over the world, learned how to ski, met many new people, and felt genuinely happy every day. I never thought of Lena again. All the pain from the past, I've endured it all. From now on, my life is a new beginning.